Hello, children. Gather round, let me tell you a story.
Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharon Ajay as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
Hello, beautiful children. How are you all doing today? I hope you are having an amazing and interesting time. Well, it's the holidays, and I hope you're all utilizing the holidays very well. For those attending the summer lessons, I hope you're gaining one or two from the lessons being taught. And for those not attending the summer lessons, I hope you're utilizing your time pretty well. Well, Tales and Lessons is here again to add to the fun of the holidays. Today I have two interesting stories to share with you all, and I hope you'll be seated and excited to listen to my story. We'll be going on a short break now, and when I return, we'll dive right into the stories for today. So kids, stay tuned.
Hello, children. Gather round, let me tell you a story.
Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharon Ajay as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
Welcome back, kids. Well, let's dive right into the stories for today. The title of our first story is The Three Little Pigs. What did I say? The Three Little Pigs. If you're standing, you should sit down, grab your popcorn, and get ready. Once upon a time, there was an old mother pig who had three little pigs and not enough food to feed them. So when they were old enough, she sent them out into the world to seek their fortunes. The first little pig was very, very lazy. He didn't want to work at all, and he built his house out of straw. The second little pig worked a little bit harder, but he was somewhat lazy too, and he built his house out of sticks. Then they both sang and danced and played together the rest of the day. The third little pig worked hard all day and built his house with bricks. It was a sturdy house complete with a fine fireplace and chimney. It looked like it could withstand the strongest of the strongest wind. The next day, a wolf happened to pass by the lane where the three little pigs live. He saw the straw house and he smelled the pig inside. He thought the pig would make a mighty, mighty fine meal, and his mouth began to water. So he knocked on the door and said, little pig, let me in, let me in. But the little pig saw the wolf's big paw through the keyhole, so he answered back, no, not by the hair on my chin. Then the wolf showed his teeth and said, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. So he huffed and puffed and blew the house down. The wolf opened his jaw very wide and beat down as hard as he could. But the first little pig escaped and ran away to hide with the second little pig. And so the wolf continued down the lane, and he passed by the second house made of sticks. And he saw the house and he smelled the pigs inside. and his mouth began to water as he thought about the fine dinner they would make. So he knocked on the door and said, well, I know we're all wondering what he said to the second pig. He had tried to eat the first pig and the first pig escaped. And now he knocked on the second pig door. Well, would he get access to the pig's house and take on and eat the both pigs inside? We'll get to find out after our short break. Stay tuned. When we return, we'll get the gist of the stories today.
Hello, children. Gather round, let me tell you a story.
Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharona J as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
Welcome back, kids. I know we are all excited to know what happened next. If you're just joining us, we're telling the story of the 3 little pigs. Well, so the wolf knocked on the door and said, little pigs, let me in, let me in. But the little pigs saw the wolf's pointy ears through the keyhole. So they answered back, no, not by the ears on our chin. So the wolf showed his teeth and said, then I will huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. So he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house down. The wolf was so greedy and he tried to catch both pigs at once. But he was too greedy and got neither. His big jaw clamped down on nothing but hair, and the 2 little pigs scrambled away as fast as their little hoofs would carry them. The wolf chased them down the lane and he almost caught them, but they made it to the brick house and slammed the door closed before the wolf could catch them. The 3 little pigs were very frightened. They knew the wolves wanted to eat them, and that was very, very true indeed. The wolf hadn't eaten all day, and he had worked up a large appetite chasing the pigs around, and now he could smell all 3 of them inside, and he knew that the 3 little pigs would make a lovely, lovely feast. So the wolf knocked on the door and said, little pigs, let me in, let me in. But the little pigs saw the wolf's narrow eyes through the keyhole. So they answered back, no, not by the ears on our chin. So the wolf showed his teeth and said, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. Well, he huffed and puffed, he puffed and huffed, and he huffed again and huffed again, and he puffed again and puffed again, but he could not blow the house down. At last, he was so out of breath that he couldn't huff and he couldn't puff anymore. So he stopped to rest and thought a bit. But this was too much. The wolf danced about with rage and swore he would come down the chimney and eat up the little pig for his supper. But while he was climbing on the roof, the little pig made a blazing fire and put on a big, huge pot full of water to boil. Then, just as the wolf was coming down the chimney, the little pig pulled off the lid and plop, it fell, the wolf into the scaling water. So the little pig put on the cover again, boiled the wolf up, and the 3 little pigs ate him up for supper. The end. What an amazing story, right? Well, we saw how fast the hands turned. Well, thinking the wolf would eat either the first pig, the second pig, or the third pig. But the 3 pigs ended up eating the big bad wolves. So kids, tell me what morals you've learned from this story. Well, I can't hear your view, so I'll tell you my own morals right here. The morals I have with me is hard work brings success. Just like the 3 little wolves, one of them worked very hard to build his beautiful, beautiful house, while the others, because they were lazy, they built a very, not a solid house. One built his house out of straw, and the other, just built his house out of, something very not as strong as the last pig built his house out of bricks. So we see that the last pig that built his house, out of bricks, succeeded in housing the 2 of the other pigs and, protected them from the wolves, and ended up eating the wolf because he put in so much hard work to build his house with solid materials and with so much work and time. So kids, next time when you're giving a task, make sure you put in enough effort. Hard works bring success. When you're giving an assignment or giving a duty, you should put in as much effort as, a very good amount of effort to bring that assignment or bring that duty to life. That's what I have for you today on this story. I have another interesting next story for you all, and we'll be going on a short break now. When we return, I'll tell you the title of the next story, and it's going to be an amazing story. I hope you sit down, hold your popcorn, and get ready for my next story. So, stay tuned.
Hello, children. Gather around, let me tell you a story.
Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharona J as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
Hello kids! Well, I hope you're all seated for the next interesting story. Well, I'm so excited about the story, and I know you would too. For those just joining us now, we just finished telling the story, and now we are on to our next interesting story. And the title of this story is The Little Girl and the Mushrooms. The Little Girl and the Mushrooms. So, let's dive into it. It was a fine summer morning, perfect to be outdoors. 2 sisters had been out mushroom picking and were on their home with heavy baskets full of mushrooms. They sang songs on their way and played with each other. Soon, they reached the point where they had to cross a railway track. They did not think twice about crossing it since there was no train coming, and they could not hear any whistle. They slowly climbed the embankment to cross the track, taking care not to drop the basket full of mushrooms. They were very near the track, and the little sister was about to cross the track when they heard the distant horn of a train. The older sister got frightened and ran back. She thought that the younger one was following her. She then turned back and was shocked to see a little sister still crossing the track. "Come back here! Run back fast!" she screamed. I know we are all thinking what happened next. Did the train get to her, or was she able to run back to her older sister? Well, we're going to take a short break now. Stay tuned. When we return, I'll tell you the rest of the story. Welcome back, kids. I know we are all excited waiting to know what happened next. Well, the older sister shouted, "Come back! Run back fast!" She screamed. And it seemed like the little girl could not hear her sister. She was still concentrating on stepping over the track with her little feet and holding onto the basket full of mushrooms. Then suddenly she tripped and fell on the track, scattering her mushrooms around. She sat down and began picking them up, putting it in her basket. In the meanwhile, the elder sister had become so afraid. She cried and screamed, calling her little sister to leave the mushrooms and run back. But it seemed as though the little one could not hear her. The engine driver panicked on seeing the girl and blew his whistle with all of his might. But she appeared not to hear the whistle. Her sister was now crying loudly, overcome by panic as the little sister crawled between the tracks on her hands and knees to pick the rest of the mushrooms. The engine driver was so helpless as it was not possible for him to stop the engine suddenly. He blew his whistle as hard as he could, but the engine rolled over the little girl. The older sister clasped her face with her trembling hands and cried bitterly. The passengers too panicked as they thought of the sight they would have to witness. The guard ran down to the end of the train to see what happened to the little girl. When the train passed, everybody saw her lying very still between the tracks with her face down. Oh my! Well, I can only wonder if the little girl died or not. But let's continue our story. Then she raised her head, sprang her knees, and began gathering the remaining mushrooms. Amazing, right? Wow! The big sister ran towards her, tears streaming down her face. They hugged and kissed each other, crying out of happiness. Tears of joy flowing down their little cheeks. Never were the two souls so happily united as at that moment. She promised her little sister that thereafter she would hold her hands tightly while crossing the railway line. The two sisters then picked all the remaining mushrooms and hand in hand solemnly walked back home. They were indeed two souls who had become wiser than their years in the span of a few minutes. Wow! The end. Well, a very short story, but a very, very insightful and interesting story, right? For a second, I thought the little girl, died, but well, we found out that she didn't die. And I guess you were also very shocked that she did not die. Well, what's the moral of this story? Well, the moral is just also like an instruction. And it is, be much careful when crossing the road or when crossing a railway track. For kids that might, want to cross the road, well, it's wrong for you to cross a road without an adult beside you, guiding you in crossing the road. But for any of you that might, find yourself crossing the road without the supervision of an adult, make sure you look to your right and you look to your left and look to your right again before you cross the road. You make sure the road is free from any vehicles or tricycles or whatever before you cross the road, and make sure you do not catwalk when crossing the road. Please, you need to run when crossing the road, except if you're crossing where a zebra crossing is, then you can majestically walk while crossing the road. So kids, that's all we have for you today on Tales and Lessons. Do well to tune in for the next episode. I remain Sharona J, and I hope to tell you more stories. So kids, have a good day. Bye.
Hello, children. Gather round, let me tell you a story.
Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharon Ajay as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.